Alas, my friends, let us talk about Kirby. The pink puff, the star of the show. Kirby is the one. Right back. The Kirby franchise is notoriously deceptive when it comes to lore and attention to detail. How would anyone think that our lovable little glutton would exist in such a deep and dense universe? Well, let's unpack this and see if we can notice some patterns. Starting with Kirby's Adventure, one of the more essential titles in the series. Alright, so here's Kirby. Stop! What is Kirby? Well, let's see. Kirby, our hero, is a cute little thing of limitless potential. He can assimilate his enemies and copy their abilities. Much like how a child assimilates new information with a voracious appetite. He embodies innocence and is therefore pure, or perhaps more specifically, pur eternus, or the eternal boy, the living principle. Something I find very interesting about Kirby is that he's a baby, and in the show Kirby Ryback Hatcha, aka Hoshi no Cubby, it is implied that he's yet to reach full maturity. A grown Kirby is something we never directly see anywhere in the series, but the alluring possibility alone is what I find so interesting. And perhaps you've already seen Kirby's matured version in the form of Meta Knight, but more on him later. Kirby's Adventure features him battling against enemies that we would not normally assume to be sentient. Like a tree, a cloud, and even the sun and the moon. That's because Kirby exists in the magical world of Dreamland, which resides in planet Popstar. And much like in The Wizard of Oz, there are surprises waiting in every corner.
Ouch!
What do you think you're doing?
We've been walking a long ways and I was hungry and... Did you say something?
She was hungry.
She was hungry!
The plot of the game is that one day the people of Dreamland discovered that they were no longer able to dream as they slept, which caused them a lot of distress. So Kirby went to investigate the Fountain of Dreams, where he discovered the clumsy King Dedede was bathing in its waters, and had destroyed the heart of the fountain, the Star Rod, and scattered its pieces across the land. The metaphor here is that Dedede has polluted the waters with his cynicism, and ruined the peaceful lives of his supposed subjects. King Dedede is Kirby's nemesis, and whereas Kirby is pure and innocent, Dedede is corrupt and lives in a fortified castle. He's an adult whose greed makes him foolish and unpleasant. But he's not evil, just out of touch with his own inner child, aka Kirby. So technically Dedede is Kirby's friend, but he's being mean for some reason. So during his titular adventure, Kirby encounters the enigmatic figure of Meta Knight, who both aids him and tests his skill. Meta Knight is Kirby's mentor, but he's also his shadow, which becomes apparent when you finally defeat him in a duel. His mask is sliced in half, and his true aspect is revealed, much to his embarrassment. Meta Knight, being Kirby's shadow, embodies the reverse characteristics of Kirby. He's very mature and stern, and is shrouded in darkness.
Come back when you can put up a fight.
His mask may be a representation of his persona, something he uses to conceal his true identity and give himself strength. And his sword represents many things, like his experience, his dominion over all imposing obstacles, his noble character, and his fierce aspect. Much like Dedede, however, Meta Knight is Kirby's friend, and his main concern is in helping Kirby reach a more matured state, so he may prevail over the many imposing obstacles that lay ahead. He does, however, possess a very dark aspect, which is made manifest in the character of Dark Meta Knight, who appeared in Kirby in the Amazing Mirror as the servant of the main baddie of the game, Dark Mind. Interestingly, Dark Meta Knight embodies the archetype of the dragon, the one the hero must face in order to reach the mastermind behind it all. And since Meta Knight pretends to be Dedede's ally, he could be seen as a fake dragon in Kirby's Adventure. On a side note, though Meta Knight's character was misrepresented in some games, his goal besides helping Kirby is to become more powerful. and reach an even more matured state. And the final obstacle in his path is Galacta Knight, the ideal perfect warrior, whose fortitude is represented by his shield, and whose piercing lance glides through his enemy's defenses. He's one hell of a final challenge, and his theme kicks ass. Finally, after besting all obstacles and defeating DDD, Kirby restores the Star Rod and places it back on the Fountain of Dreams, thus ending his noble quest to... What? Who is that? What the fuck? Who is that? In an unexpected twist, the true villain of Kirby's adventure is revealed to be the dark manifestation of the horrors that lurk beneath our dreams. And naturally, he was given the name Nightmare, an evil shapeshifter wizard who wishes to plunge the land of dreams in eternal darkness, before being banished forever by our child hero Kirby. Turns out, King Dedede had sealed Nightmare away in an effort to stop his advance, and the waters weren't polluted by his bath, rather something was consuming them from the inside. So he broke the Star Rod and incidentally banished dreams and nightmares alike. Kirby was the only one who could have purified the waters again, and Dedede had underestimated him. Though Kirby's Adventure wasn't the first game in the franchise, it was certainly the most poignant of the original releases, and is an absolute classic that laid the foundation for future titles. Superstar and its remake, Superstar Ultra, are regarded as some of the best in the series, but narrative-wise, they're a collection of disjointed stories and scenarios for Kirby to do his thing. While certainly fun games, they lack the unique qualities that made Kirby's Adventure so special. However, they expand on the lore a bit by introducing the Galactic Nova, a giant mechanical godlike entity that exists to fulfill the wishes of the ones who summon them. They are a physical manifestation of the cosmos and time itself, and can only be summoned by harnessing the essence of the planet surrounding Popstar. Kirby is prompted to do so by Marx after witnessing the sun and the moon fight above the skies of Dreamland, in an effort to re-establish the natural balance of things. But before Kirby is able to complete his prayer to the mechanical deity, Marx tackles him out of the way and wishes upon the ultimate power to control Popstar. Thus transforming himself into a monster. You see, Marx is the one responsible for causing the sun and the moon to start fighting in the first place. He's an evil jester, so we can naturally assume he's a fool who harbors contempt. He also has fangs and turns into a bat-like demon, which gives us the impression that he's a blood-sucking parasite. Marx's actions cause the Galactic Nova to turn to his side so he may take control of Popstar, upsetting the natural balance of things even further. But ironically, he causes the Sun and the Moon to join forces again to stop Nova's advance, thus allowing Kirby to enter them and destroy their heart. I believe that the reason Nova is suddenly turning to an enemy is that, despite being an ancient god, they are man-made, and rather than being a true manifestation of the cosmos, they are artificial. Meanwhile, Kirby, as stated previously, is the living principle, and so the power he had harnessed from all the planet's fountains comes to his aid and grants him access to Nova. After nullifying the Galactic Nova, Kirby confronts Marx in his new form, warped and twisted from his malicious intent. And after a climactic confrontation, well, I think you all know what happens next. You would think that exploding Nova would cause at least a little bit of damage to Kirby's galaxy, but no, it's all good. Go home, everybody. The next game I want to talk about is Planet Robobot, because of all its similarities to Kirby Superstar. First, let's talk about Meta Knight again. A lot of Kirby's enemies become roboticized in this game, obviously, since that's the whole point of the game. But Wispy Woods and Meta Knight, respectively, are turned into horrible monsters. I find Meta Knight's transformation to be especially creepy because he was brainwashed and reduced to a mere tool for Susie and President Haltman. How the noble knight has fallen. Thankfully, Kirby is able to make him come to his senses, and the two join forces to fight the game's final boss, Galactic Nova's younger cousin, Stardream. So, a bit of lore. Stardream's blueprints were discovered by President Max Prophet Haltman, who then, eager to construct the machine, lost his daughter during an accident that transported her to another dimension. Devastated, Haltman doubled his efforts to finish the construction of Stardream, since he believed the machine would bring her back. But his mind slowly degenerated as a result of excessive use of a helmet device he wore to communicate with Stardream. So much so that when his daughter returned on her own, he failed to recognize her, and continued the construction of Stardream. Susie, Haltman's daughter, became indifferent towards her own father, and secretly plotted to teach him a lesson by ruining his plans. Which incidentally resulted in the complete absorption of Haltman's mind by Stardream, who then misinterpreted his disdain for the local lifeforms of Dreamland, and plotted to rid the universe of all organic lifeforms. So rather than following the whims of an evil jester, Stardream is fueled by an old man's broken heart and senile rage. Its angelic form is indicative of its origin as a heavenly promise to Haltman, which consumed him completely and assimilated him into its own designs. It is a very sad tale, one that ends with Haltman/Stardream's heart crumbling to dust. Beautiful, isn't it? Speaking of beauty, let's talk about the previous game's main antagonist, Queen Sectonia, since her story centers around beauty. After gazing upon her own image in the cursed mirror from which Dark Meta Knight emerged in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, Sectonia's vanity consumed her and transformed her into an evil tyrant. What I find fascinating is that upon being defeated, Queen Sectonia is transformed into a giant flower, which serves as the game's final boss. the beauty she had long pursued is blossomed into this new form. And it is difficult not to notice the moon in the background. The moon is frequently paired with concepts that are related to womanhood. This is a constant throughout all of human history in all sorts of different cultures. It is also our celestial symbol for the splendorous unknown and the unconscious. The song that plays during this fight is this beautiful melody called Moonstruck Blossom, which really helps emphasize all of these elements. It is a shame that Kirby is forced to put an end to Sectonia's conceit by burning the flower to a crisp. But perhaps true beauty, despite eternal, is something that could never last forever. So those were some of the baddies Kirby had to take down during his many adventures. But obviously there is one who stands above the rest. And I would be doing this conversation a disservice by not talking about him. So tune in for part 2, I'm kidding. Dark Matter! A character who made his debut in Kirby's Dream Land 2 as a malignant force that consumed the heart of King Dedede and transformed him into a sleepwalking zombie, later deforming him into an abomination. Kirby is only able to confront Dark Matter with the Rainbow Sword, which represents prosperity, the Love Stick, which could represent love, I'm not too sure on that one, and the completed crystal from Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, which represents spiritual purity and wholeness. Needless to say, Dark Matter is a force to be reckoned with. His presence is felt in nearly all major confrontations in the Kirby series. He embodies all negative emotions and is made manifest in some of the most terrifying cosmic horrors the series has to offer. In real life, dark matter is the name given to a still-to-be-discovered form of matter that constitutes approximately a whopping 85% of all matter in the known universe. It, however, does not interact with the electromagnetic field and cannot be seen, despite having an influence over several astrophysical observations, especially ones that relate to gravitational effects. Now that's some spooky shit. In Kirby, dark matter is an all-encompassing evil force that threatens to devour the universe. It is darkness incarnate, and Kirby is only able to repel it, never to completely destroy it. His symbol is the evil eye, which is a symbol that exists in nearly all cultures and dates back all the way to ancient Greece, at least. It stems from our supernatural belief that an evil glare may bring upon us a curse, and should be averted at all costs. Of all the incarnations of dark matter, 02 is easily my favorite. Maybe it's because I'm not too sure what he is. A ghastly angel with a cactus protruding from his bottom and a bleeding eye. A symbol of divine sorrow, perhaps? Maybe.
Or maybe it's some man-eating abomination.
Another incarnation of dark matter that deserves to be discussed is Void Termina, which, yes, represents the void and emptiness, but is also as much an incarnation of Kirby as it is dark matter. How is that possible? If Kirby is the living principle, dark matter would be the anti-life principle. They are two opposing forces. The fact that Void Termina bridges the gap between these two characters speaks of the nature of this cosmic entity. Another way to describe what we understand as void is to call it chaos. Both serve to describe the concept of nothingness. And in Greek mythology, chaos was the primordial realm of existence that gave birth to the first gods. In Kirby, Void chooses to manifest itself as either of the two opposing forces in an effort to defeat Kirby. But it is heavily implied that this is the result of Highness's actions, this is Highness by the way, who provided the entity with negative energy. And should Kirby succeed in defeating it completely, Void could even manifest itself as an ally, rather than an enemy. There are some other evil entities in the Kirby universe that interest me, such as Drossia, the sorceress, who I think represents the disturbed artist that exists in all of us, not that I would know anything about that. Magalore, who's pretty much the same as Marx except, less of a monster and more of a misguided soul, I suppose. My question is, how the fuck did he fool Meta Knight? You cheeky bastard. You can't do that. Necrodius, who, I mean, look at his name. What do you think he represents? But enough about them. Kirby and the Forgotten Land comes out tomorrow and I'm very excited. From what I gathered, this game will focus heavily on the aspect of discovery. Kirby will discover new outlandish abilities, new exotic enemies, and so on. This could be a big turning point for the little guy. I'm curious to see how they'll handle the story. Hopefully I won't have to pause the game to read it. It's a bit of a weird trend with these games, but alas! Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed this dive into the Kirby franchise, and I hope to see you in the next video. Okay, that's enough for today. On a side note, though Meta Knight's character's... he's an evil gesture. A gesture. A ghastly Angus... My goodness. A ghastly Angus again. That's not a word.